everybody, I'm Kelly. If any of you have come by my channel lately and seen the latest quilt I made for our friend's son, my honorary nephew, you'll see this fabric and recognize it. I'm going to make him one of those no-sew quilted balls, and that'll be the project for my 365 Christmas this year, even though I uploaded on Halloween. So hang around and see how I do it. The rule of thumb for these is to cut your squares half an inch smaller than the diameter of your ball. That's if you're using squares. I'm doing this version because I first saw it ages ago on Shabby Fabrics, so I'll link that video below. The other one I did for my nephew a while back was from Ornament Girl, and she was using rectangles, so it's basically the same process but slightly different. Now, it's really hard to measure a ball accurately, but if I line it up here on my mat, I can pretty much get it between two lines that are 4 inches apart. Like right now I have it between 5 and 9. So I'm going to call it a 4-inch diameter ball. So I have cut all my squares of fabric at 3.5 inches by 3.5 inches. To do the whole ball, you need 8 squares of whatever's going to be in your middle. So I chose to do yellow. So you have 4 on one side of the ball and 4 on the other side of the ball. The other two colors are 16 each. So I'm going to do blue next, so there's 8 for one side and 8 for the other, and then the outside part is going to be orange, so I have 16 orange squares as well. And around the outside edge of the ball, you put, you make it almost look like a ribbon, but you use the fabric. So I'll be using this blue to go around the outside edge, and I'm pretty sure I have a blue ribbon in my stash that I can use for the hanger. So we'll get to that next. I've got my styrofoam ball ready to go. I don't know if you can see this, you guys. There's a little tiny circle right there. I bought a 2-pack of these balls at Dollarama. So that's the middle. There's a little dent in it, but that doesn't really matter. If it's marked up, so what? It's going to cover with fabric. Put it in something so it doesn't fling around. Take your squares. The first thing you should do is fold them in half both ways, because you want to find the middle. You could iron them too if you want to. Doesn't really matter. This is just faster. Just kind of give it a little finger press like that. And then do it the other way. Like so. Just make sure it's flat and straight. And everything. About like that. And then when you open it up, you can see where the middle is. So, on the wrong side, take one of your pins. You're going to need a gazillion. These are, oops, as I drop it, 1 inch. You can use half-inch ones. It really doesn't matter particularly. Just make sure they're sturdy enough that they're not going to be popping out of your styrofoam. So shove your pin down right in the middle and hold it so that, like, your 2 fingers are on either side. Okay? Get your ball back in here. I'm trying to make sure this is in line so you guys can actually see it, but so that I can see it too. And then take it and stick it right down in the top of your ball. Okay, then fold it down. And you want your square to be flat. Actually, I should probably move it up just a touch. Hold on a second. Sorry about that, guys. There, that's better. Okay, right in the middle. Okay, make sure your square is like right across. Nice and, what is that, perpendicular? Whatever, anyway. Fold, actually I'll go with this side first. Fold this side down. You want, like, you're basically pivoting around the pin at this point. The pin's right there. So make sure that when you have this line coming down, it's straight with the pin. Okay? Smooth it down a bit. Take a pin. Stick it down here in the middle so it holds it. We're at the bottom of the fold. Here, I'll show you guys there. See? Bottom of the fold. Okay? And then smooth it out this way and stick one in the corner. And yes, the fabric is not perfectly even here because you're folding it, but it's going to get covered up by the next layer, so it doesn't matter. So keeping yourself as straight as possible, pivot the other side around the pin. Oops, I moved over. Sorry about that, guys. There we go. Can you guys see that better? That looks better. I'm trying to look in the screen and do it at the same time. So you have a nice straight line. Don't put pins in your mouth. I just did that. Bad, bad, bad. Okay, and then smooth it. I guess we gotta turn this around because I'm so right-handed, it's not funny. Smooth that down. And as I shove it into the corner, there we go. So now you have something that looks like that. For every square, you do the same procedure of folding it in four so you get the middle. It's exactly the same. Pin goes in the wrong side in the middle. Same thing. So where you have the middle of this one, you want the pin to go right at the tip of the middle of the one you did before. So straight down, right at the edge. Okay? Ram it on in there, and I'm going to double check it, make sure it's good before I do anything else. Nope, I moved over a tad. Okay, hang on, go straight down there. There. Okay. So pull it down this way, get your pin down all the way. Now if I pull it down, like I said before, make it straight, okay? So for this one, you're trying to make sure that your fabric is parallel and even to the other one, okay? And I just moved it as I put it down, so I gotta fix it. Okay. Now, I'm going to keep starting on the right all the time when I do the first fold. So, whoops. Well, that's the problem. Yep. Way to go, Kelly. Put it all the way through the fabric. Let's try that again. You guys get me, warts and all, like I say. I screwed it up. I fix it. Whatever. Okay. If you do this with batik fabric, it's a little sturdier, and it'll hold better. Oh, for goodness sake. Alright, maybe I need another square. Good thing I got lots of yellow. Hold on. That one doesn't want to cooperate. We'll just do a different one. Okay, that's the first two on there. The idea is to have them so that there's a straight line running right through where you have the fold. And mine looks pretty good. Keep in mind, though, that your next bit of fabric is going to start right about here. So if you have to overlap at the end, just to get the pin in a good spot, that's fine too, because you're not really going to see it. It's okay to have a little bit of gap, because then it looks more like quilty, sort of. Try to get it close if you can, but if you can and there's a little gap, it's not really the end of the world. So that looks pretty good and straight to me, so I'll carry on doing the other pieces, which you then put here and here, obviously. Okay, so there's my center done. I'm pretty square all the way across. Some I have slighter gaps where I did my fold. The bottom does not look good. It's all over the place, but it's going to be covered by the next layer, so that really doesn't matter. The top's actually the trickiest to do. Just to make sure you get yourself all straight. I should probably push that down a little bit. If you're worried about the pin showing in the middle, because this will be like the side, you could always stick a bead there, or a button even, like, you know, just something cute, it'd be okay. Just if your pin shows a little bit too much. By the time you get it all hung up on the tree, nobody's going to notice, though. So, we'll go on to the next layer next. Time for the second layer. My next layer is blue. You do the same folding, pinning as before to make yourself a center. Have a look and see where you started. So these two squares I did first, and these two I did next, because they're a little bit overlapping. So every time you do a layer, start with the underneath layer, I guess you could call it. You'll be able to see it a little bit better when you do your own ball. It's kind of hard to tell in the camera. Now, start with the next layer, approximately half an inch from the center. Now you can eyeball it, that's fine, but make sure when you do the other four that they're the same. Now, I'm a little anal, so I'm going to measure. Now, it doesn't matter how you measure. A measuring tape is easier because it's flexible. So there's 41, whatever, it's close enough, it's in the middle. So I'm going to line it up to my line of my folds going down my ornament. Okay, I'll let it sit there for a sec because I got to grab my fabric now. So, kind of hold it there. I mean, this is being real particular. You don't have to do this, but I like to be particular. Find your 1/2 inch, right about there. Shove down your pin. Okay, now get that out of the way. And same procedure. You guys can still see this? That looks pretty good. Okay, fold it. And I'm going to keep starting on the right side because I like to do that. It's got to be the same every time, otherwise you get a weird fold and it looks dumb. It probably doesn't really matter too much in the long run, but start as you mean to go on. Again, lining up this fold with this other fold so it's a perfectly straight line. And the usual pin down in place. Just like before. You're sort of overlapping the other layer. Get your pin down there in the corner. And then same routine. Do this way. Here, I'll do it. Maybe you can see it better if I do it that way. There. See? Perfectly good line all the way through. Nice and straight. That's kind of the key. You don't want it all wonky wumpus. It looks dumb. And pin. And pin. Okay, for the next one, don't go around. It throws it off somehow. So when you do your next layer, do this one across. So my next blue one's going to go here. Then after that, it doesn't really matter which one you do, as long as you do these ones first across, and then those ones across. Okay, there's 2 blue squares. Oops, shove that pin down a bit. Opposite sides, nice straight line running all the way through. So I'll get the other ones done, and then I'll film a little bit more when I do the 3rd row, which will be orange. I wanted to show you guys this part way through. Now remember, with the 2nd and 3rd layers, you have 8 squares each. So keep doing your across and then across method. That's it with 4. So then you have to go to here, then there, then there, then there. You just keep doing exactly the same. Now, according to the Shabby Fabrics video that I watched, you can just go to town and get one of these things done in approximately an hour. You're probably going to have sore fingers, but you can do it. And I can totally see that happening. You kind of get into a bit of a rhythm going, sort of. But if you have kids or grandkids that would like to help, they might be good at the pinning part of things. I would not suggest getting to do anything with cutting fabric, especially if you're using a rotary cutter, because that thing is extremely sharp, and it's not safe for kids. My daughter actually cut herself with it because she wasn't paying attention when she was using mine. I have never cut myself. Now, you see I just measured that screwed up, so I got to do it properly where I can actually see the measuring part. That's what happens when I talk and try to do stuff at the same time. Okay, there's my 1/2 inch is right about there. I'm starting to lose the light here in this room. It's getting really gray and gross out there, so I'm just going to film this and call it a day, I think. Get down straight. There we go. Okay, that's better. Okay, so same thing. You guys get the idea? Now that one looks like it's a little lower for some reason. My measuring's off? Oh, maybe not. Just a sec, let me check it. Yeah, I could go down a little. It actually looks a bit cool if you're slightly less on the 2nd row, I guess you could say. Let me just double check that measurement just to make sure. Again, it doesn't really matter too terribly much, as long as you're consistent all the way around. You know, that was pretty good right there, actually. There's my 1/2 inch. Okay, let's sit that there. Okay, right about there. Get that out of the way. As long as this one and my other 3 that are in this row, level, whatever you want to say, are all the same, it doesn't really matter too particularly much. So I'm just going to carry on. You guys don't need to see me do this all afternoon. And I'll get back to when we do the third one. There. 2 rows. Now, if I wanted to be super particular, I could move this one up a tiny bit, but I think it looks like a star to me. But you can see now why it's important to have fabric that contrasts, so that your middle shows up good. Now, row 3. Pretty much the same idea. I'm going to start from the underneath piece first, like this one rather than this one. And your measurement's still 1/2 inch, but it's a 1/2 inch from the point down, not from the center, obviously. Now, I've not done loads and loads of these, but I'm sure you could totally vary your measurements. If you wanted to make this second layer be really skinny, then put it 1/4 inch down, and then you only see a little bit of it. It's up to you. It's your ornament. Do whatever you want. But I'm going to stick with a 1/2 inch. So, there. 72 is right on the point of that blue one. I'm lined up straight all the way across, and 1/2 inch is right there. So, whoops, I didn't grab that very well, but it doesn't really matter. Right there. Down we go. So, exactly the same procedure. You can sort of see how you kind of get into a rhythm. Make it straight across. And fold it down. So, I'm just going to pin this so it's secure, and then we'll get rid of this here. Just 1 sec. Sorry, guys. Okay, so same thing. So from this one, go across. I'm going to do this one next, so because that's another underneath one. Then I'm going to do these ones on this side, because they're the underneath ones. Then I'm going to finish with these, and we'll have a row of orange all the way around. There we go. One side done. Now, if your ball is like this and has the little area on the either end that shows you where the middle is, you're good to go. But if you don't, and you need to find the other side, take a big enough elastic band, line it up across this line, and then across this line, and when it intersects on the other side, that'll be your other starting point. You can mark it with a pen or something so that you're ready to go. So I'm going to carry on and do exactly the same thing here, and then I'll show you what it looks like. I was able to do the center easily. Before I started folding here, I took my tape measure and I laid it along there and made sure that it lined up all the way along with this line all the way here and all the way through and around the other side, without the tape measure going all wonky and crazy. Then I know I'm straight. Okay, both sides are done. Now, I just have to put the blue in the middle to cover up all the yucky bits. So let's get the tape measure out. And in order to cover everything, I need it to be at least an inch long, an inch wide. That should pretty much do it all the way around. Maybe I'll go 1.25 inches just to make sure. Okay, the circumference of the ball is just short of 12.5 inches. Now that piece of binding I had from the quilt was 2.5 inches wide, and I cut it down to 2 inches, and I've turned it in a little bit, and it is approximately 1.25 inches across. So, let's get rid of that thread. Put your ball on the side and see where you want your top to be. I think I'll go there. That one's going to be my top. Okay, so start yourself off. I cut this 14 inches long, so I've got some extra for overlap, and just sort of go. If you think that's too much of a gap, you could easily glue a piece of, you could easily glue a piece of batting all the way around. I can do that with my Fabri-Tac glue. I'm going to leave it like this. I think it'll be okay. But if I was concerned, that's what I do. I just take a piece of batting and just glue it on, and then stick this over top. I'm not worried about it too much. I did one for me a few years ago, and it came out like that, and I thought, maybe next time I'll do it, but it's one more step that isn't totally necessary. Once you hang it on the tree, you can't really even tell anyways. So, start yourself off with a pin on each side. Like so. And then just sort of, don't pull on it because then you'll stretch it and make it wonky. Just sort of guide it around. Covering up your funny ends carefully. Make sure you cover up pins. I'm going to have to shift that over just a touch because I got pins there. There we go. Now back to the top. Okay, now I'm overlapping, so give yourself a bit of overlap. Don't pin yourself short. Ah! Come here, you. There we go. So my overlap's right here. So I'm going to pin almost back where I was before, but also that's like the seam that's the actual top. So I want to make sure I pin there too, like right at that seam basically. And the other pin goes on the other side. Scoot that over a tiny bit. And dog hair. Ah, look at that. Dog hair's in everything I do. There. Now, my scissors have vanished, but anyway, just trim off your flappy bit. I found my blue ribbon, and I cut a piece. You need to have it big enough because it's a large ornament. So this is, what do we got? 11 3/4. As long as it's not some little teeny piece like that, you'll be fine. It doesn't really matter. So I'm going to use my Fabrifix glue and hope it's not gooshing everywhere like it was yesterday. It was weird. Okay. Right on the middle there. A little daub. Stick that down itself, actually. And stick that down. This stuff does tack up pretty fast, so you can kind of carry on. I'm going to let this sit here and dry completely, though, before I move it. And another little blob there. Okay. In the Happy Mail stash that Carleen Gilpin gave me several months ago, there's this big fat blue bead. And it's the perfect blue. So, in order to cover up my ribbon join, I'm going to glue that on top. Yeah, like so. That's going to take hot glue though, so I'll have to wait till this dries. So there we go. Pretty much done. I actually ordered these pins by mistake because they're too big, but I thought, rather than just have this whole thing held together by fabric glue, underneath my ribbon, or underneath my button, where the two ribbons joined up with the Fabrifix glue, look how thick these things are. And they're nice and long. So I took one and rammed it down in the top, right through the ribbon, and then a little bit of hot glue. Ta-da! All done. Thanks for watching.